Hello, and welcome to the IBM Developer Twitch stream. My name is JJ Asgar, as it says down in the bottom corner here. Normally, I stream on Thursdays, but today I have a great guest with me and a great old friend of mine, Mandi Walls from PagerDuty. Hey, Mandi, how are you?
Hey, JJ, I'm good. How are you?
Wonderful, wonderful. Some days just go weird for you, and other days go great. And let's make today a great day. How about we do that?
Excellent. That sounds like an excellent idea.
Awesome. So, normally I stream some technical things and all that. But Mandi, you came to me and asked me a question relatively recently. What was that?
I want you to teach me how to stream, JJ.
And I was like, you know what? We're gonna inception this bitch, and we're gonna stream about a stream,
right?
So yeah, right. So we're gonna have some fun here. I'm going to walk Mandi through live how I stream, and then hopefully maybe someone in the future can take this and take the lessons I've learned as over the last 2 years now of me streaming. So Mandi can make it better and go run with it, and then one day I'll be asking her how she made her stream so well. It's all budget.
Budget, right?
So Mandi, before we go any farther, introduce yourself to this audience, please.
Yeah, hi folks. My name is Mandi Walls. I am a DevOps advocate at PagerDuty these days. JJ and I used to work together at Chef for feels like a million years. Nice. So yeah, we're hoping to launch a PagerDuty Twitch channel to help folks with like integrations and API development and all those kinds of things. And like JJ is the master, so we're gonna learn all this stuff.
I just have a good camera and a good mic. That's all it is. I get other people to do the real work for me. Right? It's good talent, right? Good talent just actually done. Anyway, cool. Okay, well, so today we're gonna start with the very basics from what I've learned and how to kind of bring things in. And then I'm going to try to go into some of the advanced stuff that I think is well worth the time and effort. But we'll kind of see how this goes and see where we come. And Mandi, please ask questions as I walk through things because we're here to learn. And I do have the chat up and running. So if you are watching us on Twitch, which I know some of you people are, go ahead, throw a +1 into the chat to say that you're there. And or if you have real questions for us real time, I would love to see what you say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Stuff that I'm not thinking of or whatever else folks want to know would be great for us too. So.
Perfect. Okay, so first thing first, we are using right now what we are actually streaming in, which is, in my opinion, the easiest way to get a good stream off the ground without knowing anything really technical is using a third-party service. There are two major ones out there right now called Restream.io and StreamYard.com. We have chosen StreamYard.com, but we actually do use Restream also, and I'll get into that technical detail later. But right now we are using StreamYard because when I told you, Mandi, to join this stream, what did I actually just give you?
Just give me a URL. Yeah, it popped right up in the browser.
Exactly, and hopefully you're using Chrome, right?
Yes, I'm using Chrome.
Okay. Hey, no, it turns out StreamYard and anything other than Chrome, it gets real bitchy.
Oh, that's good to know. Okay.
It's real. Like, that's one of the disadvantages of StreamYard. For some reason, only really works in Chrome.
Okay.
Safari is a nightmare, and Firefox is hit or miss. Okay. And that's important because I'm going to talk about something else in a minute that we're going to bring that back.
Well, it seems fine. Like, for some reason, my laptop doesn't like the hardware acceleration in Chrome, and it still seems fine for all of this. Google Docs doesn't work with it turned on. This all seems fine without it.
Why would you do Google Docs? I mean, come on now, right? All right. Okay, so that's good to know. I didn't actually realize that. This is so what we're going to do is, as you see, we have some nice little windows that we have stuff. We can move things around really nice and do cool little stuff like that. And if you noticed, I did go just onto me, but Mandi, say something.
Hey.
Yep. It doesn't switch. It's still just me, and I can you're still voicing. You're a disembodied voice, which is neat. The interesting one is if you notice here, right, we have the two half windows, and you can have up to 10 people
Oh,
on
nice. Okay.
on StreamYard, where there is an eventual kind of slowdown. I've noticed, especially being at IBM, I have people from all over the world.
Sure.
So our hostly actually just asked a question. I'll bring this up right now, right there. What were the two services again? And that was Restream.io and StreamYard, which is what we're using right now, which is Stream. I'm going to share the screen in a second here. And I just realized I'm going to be streaming the actual URL because it's in the actual stream. So if you're gonna don't be mean, don't join
jump
this
on our stream. Yeah.
Well, I have to bring you in, which is nice, but I'm going to show that whole process here in a second. So normally for me, at least, I personally like these two boxes because if we brought other people in, it's a little bit easier and it's not so overwhelming. I actually had an interview with DevRelCon Tokyo yesterday, and Devin? No, not Devin. I forget his name now. He actually did the interview this way, which I feel is a little intense.
It is a little intense, yes.
Yeah. And you have to start thinking about these things because as you start streaming, like at least this way, it's like we're sitting at a table together, and that little thing. Cool. So that's important to know. And what I will do now is I will share my screen, and then Mandi, you don't see this. This is only for what is called the producers. So one of the statements that our host we made was, "Thanks, OBS did not work well on my IBM MacBook Pro." That is actually very true. OBS is also known as fiddleware, as one of my previous bosses called it. And I'm going to be walking into OBS very soon here, where I'm going to show you how I got it working on my actual IBM official MacBook. But this also works on any MacBook. You just need to kind of know what to play around with. But as you saw there, the comments over here as a producer, you actually, if you tie it into Twitch directly, like I did here with the API keys and all, you can actually just bring the actual chat in, which I actually have the chat over here on another window, just so I can keep an eye on that too, because now I control both the view through StreamYard and I have the actual chat directly from Twitch, so I can kind of cut things off. Or if some, we get spammers every once in a while. That's a thing you're going to have to deal with. While you're streaming, you will need more monitors. I actually have 4 monitors running right now. I have one laptop that has a bunch of Twitter stuff on it, and this is actually not enough for some of the production stuff that I have to do for IBM. And I'm actually asking for 2 or 3 more monitors and a dedicated streaming box, because StreamYard, YouTube, and Twitch all running at the same time basically melt your laptop.
Oh, yeah.
And I haven't even mentioned OBS on top of it, which when we get to OBS, I'll tell you why you need that processing power, or actually GPU power, because of all that stuff. Anyway, I'm babbling on. So let me go ahead and there's
spammer.
There it is, just there. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here onto the chat. Don't pay attention to the thing up at the top, but as you saw, we also obviously get spammers popping in. So what we do very quickly is we just bring down the nice band hammer and go ahead and remove them completely. Or I used to be able to. I don't know why I can't do that right now, but that's beside the point. So as you see here, this is the typical StreamYard interface. The little thing I was playing with down here is what only producers have, which is the ability to flip things around, which is really nice. And it's nice and smooth too, which is one of the advantages of it. So if you have if one person is talking, you have everyone on the side, you can zoom in and zoom out really, really quickly and easily. Again, these were the things to bring up with stuff. And you have banners and stuff like, why am I installing Emacs? Because that's always a question you have to ask yourself. It's one of those wonderful things. There's even a private chat built inside, so the streamers can actually talk to one another, especially when you get to more than 3 or 4. You really do need a way to communicate real time, but not also, have the problem of talking over one another. So that's really nice. But unfortunately, back to me just sending you that URL to join this, I've noticed that there is sometimes challenges with people not realizing that they can't talk to each other, especially when you're in the backstage. Mandi, I love you, but I'm going to throw you into the backstage right now. And as you see, she's been grayed out, and she can't say anything. She can hear me, and I am streaming right now, but there's no way for her to communicate apart from using the private chat here, which hopefully she's hearing me say this, so she'll put something in the private chat so it continues moving on. Maybe. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. So as you can see that it works quite well. So that's something that you have to tell from the very beginning. And I've learned that, especially if you have like a multi-hour stream going, which IBM does a lot of, you have to have, you either need a training session beforehand. Yeah. In essence, that's what we're doing here. Which also means that's even more overhead getting someone to just hop on your stream to stream, or you need to have them to have the attentiveness of knowing that there is a private chat and look for the little bubbles or whatever. So it's interesting, but it's worth mentioning. I just want to make sure. Okay, so I've thrown a lot at you, Mandi. What questions do you have?
No, that's great. Like, this is at the top level, it's super similar to so many of these virtual conference platforms that we've been living in for the past year. So like from that standpoint, it's okay. And then looking at like the private chat is really, it's all this presenters. So if you have 4 or 5 people on, it's all of them, and there's not direct one-to-one chat. Correct. That way. Okay.
That is correct. That is correct. And which can be a disadvantage, especially if you're bringing in, if you have a pipeline, if you will, of people that you need to bring in an interview. Yeah. It can get a little weird, especially if people are not attentive to that too.
Sure.
There, as much as I hate to say it, having a training session is valuable, especially if you're right. So some people I've talked to are really, really, really impressive engineers, but they still have problems, using their phone. And a good story that I tell is, if you're having trouble like using Slack on your phone, we need to have a training session with StreamYard because it's a little bit farther onto that step.
Yeah.
Also, something else, another rule that I have when I stream and when I interview people, as you notice, the very first thing we did is I didn't bring up any slides. I don't have any slides here. This is a conversation between you and me. Granted, I am monologuing a lot. I get that. But the idea is that a stream should be something raw. It should be something that you are working together with another human or yourself, and it's fingers on keyboards, it's screen sharing, showing something off, trying to be able to build something together, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I definitely like watching your streams the way they're not polished. Like, it doesn't need to feel like these webinars or the other, like, we have that mechanism to do those like highly polished, highly practiced, scripted things in other venues and have that somewhere else. Like the slice of life, like this is what we really end up doing behind the scenes kind of thing to build that kind of stuff is a lot more interesting for I think for a lot of folks. So
exactly. So the general rule that I give is I give you 3 slides at most. Contact information, because people are going to forget it and they're going to need to see it. Possibly a title and maybe an architectural diagram. And the rest of it, we should be either talking back and forth just like we are right now, or we should have a terminal and or screen up and clicking around happen.
Yeah.
But to play off of exactly what you said, this is the slice of life. This is actually the engineers, which is a perfect medium because there's so many people now who don't understand that the things that we do in webinars, on stage, takes 8-9 months to build.
Takes so long.
It really does.
Oh my God.
And now they actually get to see internally. They get to see behind that curtain, realizing, oh no, JJ's just another dude that has no idea what Kubernetes is, and he really is trying to figure it out.
Can't even spell it. Got no idea. Yeah.
There's like 4 Ks in it, right?
That's why it's Kate's.
Exactly.
No one knows how to spell it.
Exactly. So hopefully that was a good little kind of overview of StreamYard. The goal of it is that you can get into it really easily and very little overhead to deal with.
So for the intro that you play when you come on, is that that's something that you guys have for your channel or whatever? Like, you playing that through StreamYard too?
Actually, that's a great question. So so I'll go back to my screen share real quick and let's walk through this. So so basically under this brand thing, you can upload some up to 10-minute videos with a max size of 200 megs, as it says right there, with downtown some videos just to play. And I'm going to do this one real quick just to show it working. And as you see there, it like we didn't say anything, but I believe we can actually still talk. It just basically slaps it on top of everything.
Yeah.
And it turns out that countdown is the default one
that
they give with it with StreamYard. And if you've noticed, also the background has a bunch of leaves and shit on it.
Yeah.
That's also the default background for StreamYard too.
Okay.
They play a very careful game with copyright and copyright infringement, which is another thing you were going to have to learn very quickly about when streaming, especially if you're streaming as a company streamer. One of the things they told me very early on is, JJ, do not play music.
Oh no,
because it was, especially with IBM and the multinational corporation that it is, you play the wrong music that isn't approved, and IBM owes a lot of money to some people. So just don't even put music up. I did find one hack though. There's a game called Dwarf Fortress out there.
Okay.
If you want to look it up, it's real nerdy. It's a real nerdy game. But the main creator, it's not open source. It's a free game, but everything is free that he created, including the soundtrack that he did. And there's no licensing fees on it. So for my Be Right Back one, which I'll show on YouTube, actually sits there and plays him strumming and on his guitar. And the neat part about it is it's so perfectly looped. It's only like a 2-minute, like him strumming on his guitar, but it's so perfectly looped that you forget that it's only 2 minutes. And it just loops back on itself and just is a great like filler sound that I kind of ran with. And I have the little Erst, I think it's called, the little dwarf image. I pointed an arrow to like advertise that it's Dwarf Fortress or whatever. Just kind of give them a good, if somebody does watch this, they actually see it. But anyway, I babble on. Hey Kevin, how you doing, buddy? Faznuts says hi. He's great. I love him. He works for Red Hat. And one of these days I'll get you onto the stream. I swear, Kevin, I will. We've already had one stream together. He taught me some Swift to be able to do some stuff with containers and Swift, which I thought was really neat. And he did it all on his rel boxes, which is really cool too. Cool. But anyway, so that's StreamYard in a nutshell. It's a really easy way to kind of get in, click things around, and be able to play, which is always nice. Obviously Mandi isn't sharing her screen, but she has a much stripped down version of StreamYard because she's not a producer. She shouldn't see all these things too, because obviously you don't want people fighting around these things. But okay, so any other last questions about StreamYard?
No, I don't think so. So one thing I did notice, like as I've been playing around, I was using the Twitch Studio app, which is maybe in some kind of beta or whatever, but like just to play around with. And the only thing that seems a little bit different is that the share screen for StreamYard is like your entire screen versus being able to choose specific applications.
Yes.
Do you find that good, bad, and different?
So there's a lot of people I had to stream with, for that matter, get on WebEx or Zooms with, that are very particular about what they stream, because I guess, it's one less thing to worry about if something embarrassing pops up. I have, like, personally, I don't care. I have the rigor to make sure that I turn off all my notifications. And I also usually preface any talk I have that I have to stream something. I'm like, if anything embarrassing pops up, I apologize ahead of time, kind of thing. Just because I know occasionally you do forget that one thing that pops up, i.e. an ad here.
Yeah.
Anyway, But so when you want to start streaming specific windows, now we're getting closer into the OBS stream deck. I think that's the other one. I've dropped it because it was expensive and dumb. I'll double check that here in a second. But we'll get deeper into there in a second. But for most cases, especially when I have a general interview that is not super technical, I tell them before the stream starts, which I didn't even mention this. I ask you to join 15 minutes early just to make sure everything works, because you never want to, start streaming and realize
you don't have sound or whatever.
Exactly. Or they decided to stream from a coffee shop and they thought it would be quiet and forgot that every 4 minutes an espresso machine goes off. That's usually a challenge. Yeah. I may have had that experience or two. Anyway, so in all seriousness though, the StreamYard, it is a little expensive, but if you're doing this for your company, you're going to need budget.
Yeah.
Like this is not something, but you don't have to buy everything initially. Like, yes, I have a relatively expensive mic setup right now, but I'm still using the same headphones I used when I was working at Chef.
Yep. But
for me, moving away from my Yeti Blue mic to this mic here, basically was a leap in generation when it comes to my sound.
Yeah.
I've been told that JJ, you finally sound you're finally speaking the way you speak really in the real world.
It has very good fidelity. Yes, you definitely sound like talking to you. Yeah.
Exactly, and people love that about that, because there was a generational jump, and you can actually see it in my my YouTube playbacks where I cut over to this one, because all of a sudden it's not so scratchy, and it's better. But again, this cost a lot of money, and it took me 2 years to get to that point. Right, because I had to feel justified in spending this amount of money to get to that point.
True. And you have a switch attached to that too. What piece of hardware do you have there?
So I'll just put the screen down here. I actually have a four Rodecaster Pro. If you can kind of see that down here. My favorite button is that mute right here that everything goes through, that I can just hit that and make sure that it's off, which is really, really nice. But again, this Caster Pro thing is like $600.
Yeah.
And it's designed. Oh, come on, really? Hopefully that'll work. Nope, that's not going to work. That is too high. This is important because it's my final thing I was going to show you, but I wasn't planning on moving my camera. There we go. Okay, hopefully that'll work. But as you saw, I still have a webcam, right? Yeah. I'm still using a webcam. I'm not using a DSLR for streaming. I'm using a webcam. I'm using the same Bose headphones I've always used, but I spent the time and money on the mic. The idea with this Rode 4 mic eventually is that I'm planning on traveling at some point someday, and I'm hoping to take this with me to be able to podcast while I'm out there, or podcast or stream, whatever you want. That's in essence going to be streaming. And the beauty of this one, it actually has a built-in recorder to a micro SD card. So if you didn't actually see it, but it can record up to 30 hours of audio at a high definition, which is unbelievably powerful, because that means now I have I don't have to take a laptop. I can just take this thing, hook in a bunch of good mics to it, find a quiet spot, and find 4 people to actually talk about neat stuff and whatnot. And also, the Rodecaster Pro is probably one of my best favorite things in the world, is this button. There's a whole soundboard thing on it. And you can actually dump it into your computer, which, let me share my screen again here. As you can see here, you can actually put all these things in there. So, of course, I've got the pause button there. Got to have the rim shot.
Yes, definitely.
So it's again, it's an investment, right? Like you have to be willing to go ahead and have that there to be able to play around with. But eventually, like I said, I'm planning on doing this in real life at some point. So to me, it was a justified expense to make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as you notice, it's also plugged into my laptop. It's USB-C, I believe. So it's pretty well self-contained across the board.
Cool.
Yeah. Eventually, I'm planning on getting a DSLR camera and actually mounting it up, because as you can see here with the webcam, it's relatively good, but I know I could get a crisper picture out of it, and I'm getting to the point where I feel like that is justified. And I will show you
the nice face shot and like the background fuzzing and all the fancy business. And we get on calls with the folks from Gremlin, and their DevRel team has some really nice gear. And I'm like, wow, you all look professional. I'm like, okay.
Well, interestingly enough, you mentioned the fuzzing in the background, and that's a perfect step into one of the first reasons why you want to start looking at OBS. So if I bring back up my screen here, believe it or not, inside of StreamYard, you can use a green screen. So it can actually do green screen things, which is so Hosely, my current mic is a Shure SHURE SM7B into the Rode Class A Caster Pro, or Rode Caster Pro. It is a solid piece of equipment. This did cost a little bit of money though, which is unfortunate. Okay, so back to the green screen. So the thing that before I even bought the mic and the podcasting setup, I actually bought a green screen. I have it right behind me, right here, because as you can see, even through StreamYard, and I'll bring this back over here now. Obviously, it only covers so much of me, but it allows me not to have that fuzzy background, right? Mm-hmm. It allows me to do that. But the most important thing about it is, let me go back and turn this thing off now, is when we start bringing OBS into the story. So if I bring up OBS now, as you see here's, oh, nope, you don't see that because I'm not showing my screen. Oops, this one. So if you bring in OBS, so this is OBS, and it is fiddler. Mm-hmm. The disadvantage of OBS is it takes a lot of resources, and it is something you are going to play with a lot to get to the point where you are happy with it. But as you see here, and if I bring my share screen just over just a little bit, you should be able to see, obviously I have a green screen here behind me, and it's been blacked out. Yeah. This is actually, well, at least on a Mac, just recently, they started using something called a virtual camera. This is inside of Windows without a problem. But the virtual camera, you can turn on and use it as your camera on a Mac now. So if I go ahead and turn on this virtual camera, and as you see, I have 1% CPU. Just keep an eye on that for me. And then I decide to come back over here and switch out to my OBS virtual camera. Already, as you see here, now I have a nice black screen. Sure. Black background. There we go. Which allows for me to focus on myself, right? Which is really, really nice. And I can make myself bigger. If I needed to, I can make myself smaller, which is really cool. And another important thing is that you can actually crop really easily too, using OBS, which is a huge advantage, because as you start getting more into more advanced ways of streaming, which I'll show here in a moment, you'll actually want to start doing these kinds of things, because right now the stream that we're doing is you and me on the left-hand side looking at a screen, which if you're okay with Zoom calls, sure, fine, whatever, that's cool enough. But when you start wanting to actually build something that you can bring other people into and are proud of, you need to start looking at OBS. And I cannot stress enough, that green screen, it did cost about $160. But as you saw how much it does actually cover around me,
Yeah.
just bring that up again. As you see, I was able to crop out just myself. And because of the way the camera is, I cropped out all the side bits, and then it uses something called a, God, the filter, what the hell is it called? Hang on. Filters. It's called a Chroma Key. And because the Chroma Key by green is standard, it just turns everything and gets rid of it, which is really nice. So as you can see here, I just added one source to this me and no background. These are just names for me, right?
Yeah.
But I have that one HD camera where now this is just me. You can also put in like animated GIFs if you want. As you can see here, cheer or, thinking here, it's also really important to have. And then, me really, really thinking about stuff when I'm really bored in a meeting and I'm on Zoom and I can just flip the stuff on if I need to. Another neat part is you can actually share your actual main desktop, as you see down here. And then I'm using myself over in this corner where I can make myself small and talk about what's going on inside the screen.
Okay.
So now I'm not actually using the screen share on StreamYard. I'm using the source display of my main desktop here with me in the corner, and now it's all being pushed out through OBS. So if I take this one step farther, and we're going to go really Inception here, I check this button and I turn on the OBS camera, and now as you see here over me in the corner, or here for that matter, I'm sitting here in the corner, and now you can see exactly what I see on my desktop.
Okay, yeah.
I realize it's a little bit more advanced, but the advantage of it is I can now attach this scene specifically to my Stream Deck down here on the left-hand side, if you notice that. And now it's just a one-button push for me to flip back and forth. Or, of course, the most important one, there's the be right back one, right? There's a little, the guy over in the corner. And then I even have a privacy screen here if I needed to like, if I put something up bad or whatever, which is nice. And I'll bring that some of the more stuff back in just a second. There we go. So hopefully that makes sense. Already using OBS, if you're willing to fiddle around with it and learn how to play the stuff, all of a sudden you start getting a little bit better quality things.
Yeah, definitely.
So if I could bring my screen back up here, and now that we're looking at OBS again, right? Yes, good. So as you saw that I walked through all the different screen shares and whatnot, of course you got to have fun ones in here too, because of the way, I just put this as a background image here. And I'm now sitting in the office, or, of course, one of my spirit animals of Ron Swanson. And then, my favorite one is actually this one. It was like, hey, let's go to the conference room. You should sit down. sit down right over here, if you don't mind. So, I know it's fun. So that's some basic usage of OBS there. As you noticed, I literally just created a couple images and then I put my camera on there, and then I just kind of manipulated all this stuff here. Before I go to the next step though, what you end up having is something called studio mode, where this is actually how you do the work for OBS, where you transition your thing into what is playing now. So as you notice, I hit that transition button and immediately kick that over. But that also means I can play with this when I need to. So if I say like, that's pretty good, I don't want to move it, but I want to move this one around for whatever reason, I can put this like over here now, and then I can put this one like over here, and then I can transition back over into here, and now I'm sitting here with two little, exclamations. So I can switch things on the fly. And that's really important to the next step I'm going to show you here in a second.
Okay.
So that's not what I want at all. I like that having it here because obviously I want you to be able to see me. So what has happened is, as you saw, this is a scene. These are sources inside of scenes. And a collection of scenes is called a scene collection. Now, right now, I have this default green screen is the one that I use to be the default way of doing things. But I also have an IBM Developer one, because that one, for obvious reasons, is me branded with all IBM Developer stuff. So normally I start out with the starting screen, which has no sound on it whatsoever.
Mhm.
I used to have a timer down there too, but that seemed kind of pointless or in the long term. And then what I have is me coming here, whereas you noticed already, it says Yeti Blue, but it's actually something else, is the actual sound control, the audio mixer that is sending out to the stream. Inside of settings here, that's where you put the stream key, which is really nice. So you don't need to use StreamYard. You can just hit that start streaming and start recording button, and then it'll immediately push out to wherever you need to go.
Oh, okay.
But the challenge is, I believe OBS can only stream to one destination, and that's where Restream.io comes into play. Excuse me for a second. So one of the disadvantages of OBS is, so our hostly asked, is our standard OBS or Streamlabs OBS better for our IBM streams? I will answer that in just a moment. Now, that's actually a perfect lead into one of my statements about this. So as you see here, with this, I have my normal, if I go back to the stream or the studio mode and I look at here, now as you see, I have multiple sources coming in here where I have my HD camera, I have my name here, I've got my title so I can move it around if I ever need to,
Oh, okay,
or whatever. Yeah. And one of the important things, and this is actually something Paul taught me, is being able to have overlays on stuff. So the next thing is that I have these overlays here where I have their standard name written out already that I can play around inside of an overlay. So if we go to this overlay guest 1, now if I make any changes to guest 2 here, and I'm going to just say, change this to, yellow belt, right? I can go over to overlay 2 now, and this, because I already have everything set up exactly how I need it to, it just changes this. So I don't have to mess with this one anymore. And that's really, really, really important, because as soon as you get something the way you want to talk about it and you use overlays, now I don't have to mess with anything in the screen because I just change the referenced source here and be able to add to it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you start building things up from modular, right? Mm-hmm. Where I have all these different overlays. I got Mofi down here because he's always on my stream too, and then I have my host overlay right here to like everything that I need, know where my name is going to go and all that stuff. And then I have a standard one for each one, so I don't have to think about it. Honestly, I should just change this to Mofi and Paul, but I'm just lazy. And then as you see, I have the 2-person talking here, and then this is the way for me and Paul to be able to get in. You're probably wondering, JJ, how do you actually bring Paul into this thing? That's probably the next natural question. So there's a couple different ways of doing it. Originally, what Paul and I used to do is actually just have him hop on Zoom.
Oh, okay.
The screen share was really easy to do through Zoom, and we ended up finding the Zoom window, having him in like another window, and I crop it out. But we've moved over to something called OBS Ninja recently, OBS.Ninja, which is basically it's a free service, which is designed to make your life significantly easier using OBS. There's a lot more stuff here, but the majority of it you have to worry about is when you create a room here. We'll just call it that for some reason, and then it gives you a control room, right? Where if I send this link to you, Mandy, give me a second here. Where are you, Mandy? Where are you, Mandy? Right here. If you go ahead and click on that link for me. Maybe.
Oh, hang on. It picked one of my virtual cameras, so it's being a pain. Here we go.
Mm-hmm. So as you see, you already just popped right in there. I can take this link right here and go back over into OBS, and then
I'll add that as a source.
Right here, exactly. Change this URL right here. Ah. And hit OK. And there you are.
Oh, that is slick. Nice.
So now you're here already set up and good to go. And this control room gives you all those URLs. And it turns out you can actually make permanent ones. So I have some, fun URLs off of one of my domains that I can just send that domain to somebody. And as long as they click on that button, they come into this. I will say it is challenging because you have to figure out another way for you to be able to talk to that other person. So what I end up doing is I end up actually adding myself to the room too. And if you see here, I add myself, I join, and then next, what'll happen is then now you're here, so we now can talk, and you should hear me twice now.
I do. I hear your echo. Yeah.
Yeah, which is a little weird, needless to say, but now we can actually speak like we were speaking is through like a Google Meet or Zoom or whatever.
Yeah.
And I can even share my screen through this thing too, right? So if I share my entire screen, as you see, even more inceptions going on, but it comes up as another instance here that I can actually add to OBS. So if Paul ever needed to share his screen, for instance, I could just drop it into this link right here. Oops. This link right here, and now all of a sudden the screen share is showing up. So hold on 1 second just to prove to you that it's actually working. If I take this, copy that to the clipboard, post that in there, and now this would be sharing that out. I get it. We're very deep here,
Yeah.
but hopefully this makes a little bit more sense. I'm going to drop out of these because oh my god, the echo is killing me.
Yeah.
But you get the point where all of a sudden OBS becomes so much more powerful because you have the ability to play around there. Unfortunately, the disadvantage of using OBS in this case is it opens up sockets between, and it's all peer-to-peer communications. And that's important to know because we've noticed a massive degradation at about 4 people.
Okay.
Where it just starts getting really, really slow. And we had a conference where we only did everything through OBS Ninja and OBS with a dedicated producer that whole 8 hours. And it turns out because of the VPN policies on some of the people that were being used, OBS Ninja just freaked the fuck out.
Yeah.
Because it was being routed all over the place to the point where it was I should probably turn off my camera now, right? Hang on 1 second. There we go. So that's something to be wary of. And especially some of the people we were talking to, because of they were security experts and security people. Of course, they're going to use VPNs to mask their stuff. But it never dawned on us that the technology might be limited by that. So hopefully I've highlighted one of the disadvantages of OBS Ninja here, which is you can get up to like 4 people compared to StreamYard, which you can get up to 10. I will say though, if you have more people than 4 on a stream, it gets really chaotic really fast.
Yeah.
But let me take a quick aside to R. Hosley's question of which is better for streaming, or at least in IBM's idea between the standard OBS or Streamlabs is the one I was trying to think of earlier, not Stream Deck. Streamlabs OBS. So the short of it is, standard OBS is like using vanilla Linux in a lot of ways, where you have to choose, or for that matter, vanilla Kubernetes, right? Yeah, exactly. I bring it back. You have to sit down and think about the different things you want and we're willing to build. StreamYard's OBS has some really, really nice templates already built in, and it obviously costs money. So if you're willing to pay just to get something off the ground and still have the flexibility of OBS, Streamlabs OBS is great.
Okay.
Unfortunately, at least from my standpoint and the way I stream, the people that I've had challenges with just to teach about the private chat or all that, bringing Streamlabs in too is just another layer of complexity on top of the whole problem, where as someone who does this professionally, I'm willing to invest the time.
Sure.
But if I'm speaking to random executive at IBM who has trouble using their phone and try to convince them to, use Streamlabs and talk to me through that, that's a whole nother conversation that I just frankly don't have time for. And I mean, obviously it's not, I say that with a little tongue in cheek there, but we all know the technical people out there who understand their realms extremely well and like understand ML to a T. But when you ask them to, send you an email, it takes them 4 days to do it. Yeah. Because they don't understand how to use the software. And I get that. And we all have our strengths and weaknesses. So hopefully that's kind of highlighted a few of the things. I realized I gave a very whistle-stop tour of OBS, but do you see the advantages and disadvantages, or is there something I could go deeper into?
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's interesting because like it adds so many possibilities for the kinds of things that you can show and the kinds of conversations you can have, just by putting a little bit more tinker time into what's going on there. But yeah, I definitely get that it's definitely fiddleware. Like I did some work with Camtasia years ago, and it's the same sort of thing. Like unless somebody's going to tell me exactly what they want out of it, like fiddling around with all of those components can be pretty overwhelming to get started with. So.
And I completely forgot to show you the whole reason why I started really falling in love with OBS. Again, and I will switch my camera over to it now. And as you see here, it's the ability for me to be in the corner with the name. And then one step farther where I can actually sit on the, here, hold on, let me turn that stuff off real quick. So I can sit over here in the corner, and then I can have Paul on the other side, and we can actually go a little bit transparent. So whatever we have on the screen, we can be talking about and like have us not being disembodied voices on top of it.
Yeah. Okay.
And if we spend a little bit of time getting the transparency correctly, we can even have underneath us in here, like the ability to see text also. Mm-hmm. So then all of a sudden we're not two disembodied voices. We can even act like we're looking at the thing too, and like point out to it, which is a little bit more, or I guess is that way. Mm-hmm. The idea is that it's a little bit more genuine, right? Mm-hmm. And then we have actual branding up here on the top also. If you can see my mouse move, hopefully that makes sense. Which makes life a little bit easier there. So there is really, really nice advantages to it. But again, that also requires, using some of the more advanced things, i.e. green screens and setting up the different scenes on how you need to. So just to kind of hopefully reiterate this whole story, what I ended up doing is the first thing I bought when I started taking streaming more seriously was actually a Stream Deck when they were relatively cheap. And I have the 15 button one, which I can switch really easily on the different scenes that I need to. And also, you may have noticed I tweeted out, I'm live on IBM Developer in about 30 minutes, 10, 15 minutes or whatever. Those are actual buttons on my Stream Deck.
Oh, okay.
So I don't have to think about it. Like I know I'm about to stream or I'm about to go live. I can just hit the button and I can it's one less thing for me to type out or bring up or schedule. It just happens, which is really nice. I also have obviously a stream button and a record button on there too. So I can, instead of me having to click start recording and start streaming, I just hit these two buttons, which I can actually turn into a macro if I wanted to, or I just hit one button and it does both things for me too. So at first I bought the Stream Deck. I learned how to use that. I started using some other stuff inside of it, but frankly speaking, I'm not like, I got Alfred down well enough that I don't really need like the launching abilities of Stream Decks or everything. It's just because it just broke my workflow. Mm-hmm. So first I bought that, then I bought the green screen because to me it was more important for me to like crop myself and have the the black background compared to the fuzzy background.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm still proud. I'm still proud of some of the stuff. Like you can't really see it. You used to be able to, these shelves used to be behind me, and I had a bunch of like knickknacks and shit on it, just kind of like you do,
Mm-hmm.
to give some nice background. But eventually, I realized that at least when I'm streaming, I want people to concentrate on either the screen that I'm being shared or me. They shouldn't be looking behind me.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, everybody loves a little avocado, right?
Definitely.
There it is.
Yeah.
Everybody loves a little avocado every once in a while, but that's the reason why I'm going to the black background, because it was much easier that way.
Yeah.
Then I moved over into the mic and all that, and my final step in this whole thing will be probably the DSL camera, so I can get a higher resolution.
Okay.
I'm just babbling now. Am I answering or helping?
No, it's super interesting because like I don't really know. Like I have a podcast mic because we have a podcast, so we record that. I keep fiddling with it because it on Zoom it amplifies, but on other stuff it doesn't. So like sometimes I'm too low and whatever else. So like being my own amateur sound engineer has been interesting on Mac, which doesn't really have a lot of bells and whistles for that stuff.
Yeah. Really.
So like from there, like I wouldn't know what would be next. So yeah, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it boils down to budget too, right? Like the rule at the time was the rule of the time when we were first getting streaming off the ground at IBM is that we had budget to buy stuff, because we knew that we needed to invest in it. The challenge was we didn't want to just buy the top of the line stuff for people that were going to stream once or twice.
Yeah.
And that's probably hopefully the last thing that I kind of want to hit home about this whole, because we're coming up to the hour, which is probably good enough for us to break at this. But the biggest problem with streaming is that everybody has a stream. Everybody has the second stream, and maybe even the third. It's the fourth, fifth, sixth streams that are the problem. And you don't want to spend a lot of money on buying all this equipment just so you realize after your third stream, you really hate every moment of being able to balance chat, balance conversation, balance technical issues, balance the actual thing you're trying to do, and be able to be a producer with a bunch of people coming in and going or whatever.
Yeah.
There's a lot of plates to be in the air, and it's tiring.
Yeah.
I know for after I stream, which is going to be here in a handful of moments, I'm going to turn around, probably sit down on that couch, put an audiobook on, just to decompress, right? Because you can hear it in my voice. My voice is getting tired from all the speaking I've been doing. But you get the point, right? Where like if you can get through all the humps, eventually becomes something that you're just, it's like speaking on stage, but you just have no real feedback, which is a little annoying.
And well, and like honestly, after the past year, everything's kind of been like that anyway. Like half the talks that we've done have been sort of pre-recorded, and like audience engagement, even when folks are well-meaning and there's a Discord or whatever else, is like super low. So like you're just kind of like speaking into the ether and hoping that someone's getting the point somewhere, because there's no nodding heads, there's no yes, I totally get that, like none of that affirmation from the audience at all, which is wild. But yeah.
That's actually one of my tricks is I ask for that +1 in the chat, because that simple thing right there to get one person to do +1, at least especially as a streamer, you at least acknowledge that little viewer count at the top of your stream is actually true.
Yeah.
It just kind of, it helps a little bit with the confidence. But I will say, and I think I mentioned this before when our little prep call originally with this, is that I've also learned that live streaming is as fun as it is, and the small amount of engagement that you get live, comparatively speaking to like some of the gamer streamers out there, what ends up happening is the long tail of the YouTube videos. Because at least the way I do it with Paul, we try to learn some obscure thing of Kubernetes
Mm-hmm.
that we haven't been able to figure out how to do it. So why not us sit down and figure out how to get it done? When we put that video up onto YouTube and somebody searches for, in your case, that integration with PagerDuty,
Yeah.
what you'll find out is that people will watch that, like 3 or 4 minutes of it, trying to understand how they can get that working for them. And it's the long tail of that story becomes more valuable.
Mm-hmm.
So they see the stumbling blocks that you hit. They see the things that are going on, or they see the stumbling blocks Paul and I hit, where we've had some streams that we've set aside for 2.5 hours because we're just like, we've got to figure this thing out. We figure out in 10 fucking minutes, and we're like, well, I guess we're done, right? Like we got our goal done, and it works it works great that way. So
Yeah.
anyway, we have a couple more questions. So Kevin asked, which camera are you considering? I just dipped my toe into that world, Kevin. I have no clue what I'm looking at, and the more I look at it, the more I think I'm just going to ask Mophie to give me an idea to buy, and then I will put the paperwork in to make that happen. And then our Hosley, which I think is Rab, now that I'm thinking about it, maybe, I don't know, am I running this through a Dev MacBook Pro? And I believe they're an IBMer also. And yes, this is the Dev MacBook Pro, but I am pushing this machine to its limits. I genuinely need to invest in a streaming desktop with a real GPU that can sit here, because like if you're running
if you
YouTube,
can get one from the Bitcoin miners, like
very true. Well, we actually did, because we're IBM, right, and we have access to hardware. We actually tried to build a streaming desktop in the cloud because we can get access to bare metal hardware with actual GPUs inside of it. And we were planning on going down this path. The problem is that the way that the GPUs are ran inside of data centers, they have HDMI ports, but the card requires you to plug in a monitor to it to be able to activate it for RDS or RDP, remote desktop protocol through Windows. So it turns out you can buy a $7 dongle that tricks it into thinking that there's a monitor on there to turn it on. But because these are all bare metal machines inside of a data center somewhere, I can't just go in and plug something on there. So we tried no machine. We tried faking things out. It turns out Google has a GCP instance that did all this with software that you can buy for about $1,200 a month. If you're running it 24/7, I mean, obviously you can spin it up and spin it down, where you can build an OBS instance in the cloud, actually using the GPU. So you can have like standardized scenes and all that stuff. So you can have people just RDP into that box, and that becomes the streaming box. Unfortunately, spending $1,200 on Google for a desktop is probably not going to fly very well for a competitor.
That's not going to go through your expenses at all. No.
Yeah, not so well. So we had to pivot on that, and that's actually what started us looking at StreamYard and Restream more seriously. And I didn't even mention why I keep mentioning both and not just say we use just StreamYard. So Restream.io has one feature that StreamYard does not have. Restream.io was originally designed to be an aggregator, so you can have one API endpoint with one API key, and then you authenticate against, Twitch, YouTube, hence the name Restream, right? Yeah. They also have a generic, what's it called? Give me 2 seconds here. Whatever the term is to stream stuff, like RTP, real time. RTMP. Sure, let's go with RTMP.
Close enough.
They had, at the time, they had the only thing that could go to generic RTMP endpoints, which IBM uses something called Watson Media, which is our own kind of like, if you will, YouTube, right? Where it's a paid system to do it. So Restream could talk to it directly. so that means anytime a Twitch streamer or a YouTube streamer was on, they could just hit one endpoint for restream and get to all our major platforms at the same time. And also you could schedule playing videos on all those at the same. So you can make a video first, upload it to Restream, hit a button at like noon, start playing on everything, and everything gets announced and pushed it out, and it was great. Unfortunately, over time, because StreamYard does this so well, they went deeper into this space, and the Restream, they got generic RTMP support recently for StreamYard, but they still don't have a way to play longer than that 10-minute video that you saw there. Which, if you have some random person, like a European doing a workshop or something, and they need to display this out in Tokyo or whatever, asking them to do it at an unreasonable time is just
time zones are thing. Yes,
exactly. So that's one reason why we keep Restream around. Is because we like to be able to put videos up there and not have to use like an OBS or something like that to stream that. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. No, it totally makes sense. And we run into the same sort of thing when we're working with our folks in EPJ. Like, we'd love to help you out there, but like it's 2 a.m.
Exactly. You don't want to see angry JJ at 2 a.m. That just doesn't work. Doesn't work.
Absolutely not.
So but yeah, so Mandi, any last questions that you might have?
No, this has been great. Like, one other thing that you and I had talked about a couple weeks ago when we chatted was like, you guys have a pretty robust schedule. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on your channel. Like, how did you get started there? Like, is there what's it like for your IBMers? Is there like an open application? Want to have a show? How do you guys do that?
So being that we've been streaming for IBM Developer has been streaming for about a total of 3 years. And we're right at the cusp of, oh wow, we can, we can enable people to self-service streaming.
Yeah.
And that was what StreamYard kind of gave us, was the ability to self-service, the ability to stream with maybe a 10-minute call to like walk people through and get them permission to do stuff. And kind of make sure to be like, hey, don't step on other people. And we actually have an internal calendar that we ask people to put an invite in, and then put an issue in our GHE instance that we just track all the stuff to make sure that they can do it, and they've like followed the right procedures and all, and they don't step on someone else. Yeah. And the least amount of overhead to do it, to get people involved, is the best way to get people involved, because
absolutely
you have to spend so much time thinking about what you're going to stream anyway. Like, to have overhead to do bureaucracy to get a promoval to, like, we don't want that. We want the ability to just give the person the platform and be like, the rules, you know what you can and can't do.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Have fun. Good luck, kind of thing.
Cool. No, that sounds awesome.
Cool. Well, Mandi, I guess thank you for indulging me in this inception.
No, thank you. This has been great. This is a whole lot of help, and will help the rest of my team too. So send them all the link, and they can watch it and figure stuff out as well. So
perfect.
Awesome.
And I'd be really curious. Please reach out if you ever have any problems. Also, I'd be curious on which way you go, and I'll keep an eye on the PagerDuty Twitch or PagerDuty Twitter handle to see when you guys start announcing this stuff. Because
we're hoping for July. Like, right now, we're just like putting all the plans together, see who wants to get involved, and go from there, and see if we need some budget, or if we start with the advocates, we've already got some of our hardware. So see what happens.
Awesome.
So yeah.
All right. Well, give it 2 or 3 more seconds to see if anyone else posts something in the chat. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, our Hosley. Whoever you are, can you ping me on Slack? Because I have a feeling I might be able to recruit you to start streaming too, which would be awesome.
Yeah, sounds like a new recruit there, definitely.
There you go. Perfect. But okay. All right, Mandi. Well, say bye, Mandi.
Bye.
Nice.